Hey, what's happening? Listen, we're going to be discussing the 3 p.m. energy slump. We're going to be talking about exactly why at about 3 o'clock every single day your head seems to fall off and your energy seems to take the biggest, deepest dive ever imaginable. And that deep, horrible energy dip usually kind of forces you to kind of move towards more caffeine to kind of top up the 4 or 5 coffees you've already had. Sometimes we kind of lead towards sugary snacks because we're a little bit tired. Our kind of decision making is all over the place. As with anything behavior based like this, we need to look at events leading up to the energy crash. And it's when we can change our behavior leading up to it that we can make the biggest difference. So let's start at the beginning. You wake up in the morning, you probably haven't had enough restorative sleep the night before. So you're starting off on a back foot anyway. So the first thing you do is you come down the stairs, you fumble for the coffee machine, you turn the coffee machine on, you have 2 to 3 coffees. It used to be 1, then it was 2. Now it's kind of 2 to 3 coffees that you need every single morning to kind of get you going. So if you will have been listening to anything that I've kind of been talking about when it comes to caffeine over the past few weeks, and if you're on my Sleep Advantage coaching program, we will have kind of covered this in depth. But the way that caffeine works is it stops the brain. It stops. I can't think of the word, but I'm going to go with it anyway. So there's a chemical in the brain called adenosine. That builds up, it's a waste product of energy. So whenever we kind of do anything, we use energy, the kind of byproduct, the waste product is adenosine, and it builds up in the brain. Now, the way that caffeine works is it kind of counteracts adenosine. It doesn't get rid of it, but it counteracts it. It stops the brain being able to kind of recognize it. It blocks adenosine binding to the receptors in the brain. But anyway, that's by the by. Just kind of put that on the back burner. So we start the day, we've got a little bit too much adenosine in the brain. So we caffeinate to kind of make ourselves feel really good. Over the course of the day, we're thinking, we're moving, we're doing things, we're using energy. More adenosine is building up. But as the adenosine is building up, it's got nowhere to go. It's still there. The brain isn't recognizing it. The brain's kind of blind to it, but it's still building up because we're using energy and there's a big build up. Okay, so as we've discussed, the half-life of caffeine, 4, 5, 6 hours, dependent, kind of very person dependent, which means that after a few hours, the caffeine is going to start wearing off. Once the caffeine starts to wear off, you've got a big, huge, massive buildup of adenosine in the brain, which all of a sudden has full access to the receptors, which means that you feel incredibly sleepy. Add that to the fact that your choice of lunch is probably not in line with what you kind of really want to do. It was more than likely a kind of carbohydrate heavy lunch, especially if you're one of those people that skips breakfast and tends to eat a little bit more at lunchtime. So what we've got here is what we call postprandial somnolence. Everyone's had this after they have a big dinner. I'm like it every Sunday when I make a roast dinner, a little bit kind of sleepy because you've got that kind of sudden release of serotonin in the brain, which makes you feel all mellow and all kind of sleepy. So we've got a massive buildup of adenosine, we've got the caffeine wearing off, and we've got the fact that you probably didn't really make the kind of best choices at lunch. Again, this is all covered on my programs. So if you're in the program already, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So we've got huge amount of sleep pressure building up. We've got postprandial somnolence, which is going to hit us about 2, 3 o'clock. It's going to punch you square in the face. Now, your first reaction is more coffee. Your first reaction is to turn on the kettle, is to kind of go to Starbucks, is to kind of caffeinate because you want that energy. And we're starting the whole kind of cycle again. So we're blocking the adenosine. The problem is, like we've just said, the caffeine of half-life is like 5-6 hours. That means that you're having a cup of coffee at 2 o'clock, in six hours time, you've still got half that amount of caffeine flowing through your vein, which means your brain, which means that you are then going to struggle to fall into restorative sleep. Even if you are one of those people that I spoke about in a video yesterday, even if you are one of those people who feels like they fall asleep absolutely fine, you are then not getting the deep sleep, the physically restorative sleep overnight, because the caffeine it's fragmenting your sleep. It's like stopping you. You're kind of bouncing in and out of this deep sleep. So you actually get about 30% less deep sleep, which if we equate that to kind of something that we can kind of look at, you're getting the same amount of sleep of someone who's like 15 years, same amount of deep sleep as someone who's about 15 years older than you, which is why when you wake up in the morning, we start this whole cycle again. We've got a build-up of adenosine. We call it sleep debt because we haven't had enough sleep to get rid of all the sleep pressure from yesterday. And we start again. We massively caffeinate in the morning. We massively overeat at lunch. Our head falls off at 3 o'clock. We have more caffeine, and it's a cyclical thing. And it's something that you, the only person that can address this is you. So if you suffer with the 3 p.m. energy punch in the face that like the majority of business owners, entrepreneurs, busy people kind of experience, the only way that you can manage this is by taking care of your sleep, is by prioritizing sleep. Going to bed at the same time every day, getting up at the same time every day. Giving yourself an 8-hour sleep opportunity. That means if you've got to get up at 6, you need to be having lights out by 10 o'clock at the absolute latest. There's this huge misconception that going to bed, when you go to bed and when you get up, that's how much sleep you've had. That couldn't be further from the truth. Once we add into the fact that it's going to take you a little while to fall asleep, on the other end, you will be stirring when your cortisol rises, when your body temperature starts to rise. You will be stirring for probably 30 to 60 minutes before you wake up anyway. Maybe you've got a couple of trips to the toilet. In between sleep phases, when you go, like I've said, you've got 90-minute sleep phases. In between those sleep phases, you will be awake for a little tiny bit because you're kind of adjusting position because you've been paralyzed with REM sleep for the past however many kind of minutes. So we need to look at prioritizing your sleep. We need to look at reducing your caffeine, and we need to look at taking better care of yourself by choosing foods that are more in line with your kind of particular goals. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a ramble and a waffle. Hopefully it's set a few light bulbs off in your brain. Hopefully it's made you think, God, that's me. I do that. I have caffeine in the afternoon. I have a cup of tea in the afternoon. Still got a lot of caffeine in it, which means that I can't sleep properly at night, which means that I start the next day. Oh God, boom. Hopefully it's given you something to think about. And listen, if you've got to this point, if you've watched this entire video and you're struggling, if you know that you could be better, just reach out. Let's have a conversation. Shoot me a message and let's see if I can help you. If I can't help you, I will point you in the direction of someone who possibly can. Anyway, I'm going to scoot. This video has been a little bit longer than I was expecting. Enjoy your day, and I'll catch you later.